Well, welcome to my class on Questmastering anxiety. This I know I said anxiety. That's the general gist of what I'm gonna go over. But it can translate to other uh mental healths that have similar afflictions, I guess would be the right word to use. Um, However, I do need to add a disclaimer. Um, I do not have a psychology degree. Any advice that I give today uh should not be taken as professional medical advice. I am not in any way, shape, or form some sort of psychiatrist that's going to give you all your answers. If you have a mental illness of some sorts, I'd recommend, if you can, uh, getting professional help of any kind, be it a psychologist or a guidance counselor if you're in school still, something of the sorts. That being said, the reason I'm doing this class is because I can relate on a personal note. I'm not expecting people to come forth and say, "Hey, I have anxiety or I have depression or I have XYZ mental health issue." I Everybody in a way has some sort. I'm not going to expect people to jump up and say, "Hey, I have this issue." But myself, so you guys know, I suffer with anxiety problems, depression, and psychosis. So if you don't know what psychosis is, it's I disjoint from reality every so often. Um, so when it comes to quest mastering anxiety, there are three phases you should think about. The first of it's the before, the during, and the after. And kind of pacing yourself through all three is what um it it, it it'll help you kind of calm yourself down and figure out where to go from there. It's quest mastering can be a very daunting task, especially in larger parks and all the way up to Kingdom, because there's going to be so many eyes on you. Not trying to scare you, of course. It's just the general gist of it. There's going to be so many eyes on you. You're going to feel this pressure, but people are there to have fun. And if people are there to judge you, well, that's on them. They're there to to put it nicely, they're being dicks about it. um So the first phase, of course, is before the quest. And what I've found that helps me out a lot with quest mastering anxiety is planning the ever loving daylights out of things. Um, Me personally, what I do is I come up with some sort of document, a document full of what the quest is going to be about, what the like what can go wrong? What kind of things can be fail saved? What kind of options people might take? What kind of uh the endings that may happen with the quest. Um but when you have a plan, you need to remember one critical thing. Things can and most likely will go wrong, but you need to remind yourself of that. And if things go wrong, you just need to breathe and then think critically during. I'll get to that later. And the other good part about planning ahead of time is you get to figure out who your NPCs are if you ask ahead of time. And your NPCs can fill in when you need to kind of step back. And the more you educate your NPCs, the better they can run the quest for you in a way. Um, so what I would recommend ahead of time is, as I said, talk to your NPCs. Make sure they know their characters. Make sure they know their abilities, their garb. If if you're unable to fulfill some sort of role, have somebody play double. You don't need to go and force yourself to do things if you don't have the resources to. If you can't afford 10 different goblins to act as the subordinates for a mega boss, well, have 5 people, give them extra abilities. That way you're not struggling to say, "Hey, I need 5 additional people who don't know what the hell they're doing." Um, and another thing, when it's before you go into any kind of quest, uh, learn breathing exercises. The last thing you want to do is to do an entire quest with your breath held. That'll go cause you to just go blue in the face, you'll collapse, and it's just not good for everybody when that happens. And I know breathing might be hard when you're in the thick of it and you start to get anxiety attacks. I've been there, I've done that. So it it is hard to think about, but learning to breathe beforehand just kind of, I guess, sets the seed so that the plant of overcoming anxiety attacks during quest is, I guess, bypassed. Um and yeah. And the other major thing is having somebody else help you. If you're if you're not sure how to plan a quest, find somebody with more experience than you. When I was starting off with quest mastering, I was confused. I was looking at quests that had already been ran by like Tyler Salvador or Admiral or even Grimbone. Those people I've seen do quests. That's kind of what inspired me to do my own quests. Now, when I was initially planning it out, I kind of looked at it and go, "What the hell am I doing?" And of course, with every new quest master, it causes a lot of anxiety. Like, "Oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. Things are going to go to hell." And for that reason, and I didn't do this initially, find somebody with more experience than you. I'm always open to talk quests if you're having issues, saying like, "Oh, I'm not good with planning this. Can you help me out?" And if you ask any good quest master out in the Nine Blades, they'll be willing to help you out. I've seen more quest masters work on other people's quests than they've worked on their own, and that's just because everybody is full of ideas. Um, and it helps to get many minds. Well, no, to a certain extent many minds into this work to make sure it goes well for you. So some prominent people that I've seen in the Nine Blades, so that I can list off a few from other parks. Lichwood, from what I've heard, has I think it was Jeet uh, and Morden. Twilight Peak has the Foobard. Uh, Wolvenfang has Finola and I want to say Clifton. I believe Clifton has run a quest or two. Has he, Valiant?
Several.
Okay, so Clifton's run a few quests involving Fang. In Lenagond, there's myself and Wunjo, or Garfield, or however you want to say his name, but it's Tyler. Felfrost has Ryan Sutherland, or Varen. Uh, Heathen's Cove, I'm not entirely sure, and Silver Herbum, I'm still just getting to know. Uh, and Bell Hollow has Anarok. Anarok has run a few quests out there. Have I missed a park? I feel like I missed one. But I'm just naming off a few so that people can get a decent idea. But when you're well, like I said, when you look yeah, Heathens Cove would have, Sugar and Takeda, and then Felfrost would also have Cragor. Um, but these people, from how I've talked to them, they know their quests, and I think each of them have kind of had their own issues with quest mastering. Uh, apparently Orland is storied from Silva Urbum as well, just so we can have that on the recording. But all these people have had experiences with quest mastering. They know the issues that come up with players, especially in that respective park. When I was when I did my first out of park quest, it was in Felfrost. Felfrost and Lichwood are completely different for um sorry, Felfrost and Linagon, sorry, are completely different for how they do their quests, how their players respond to quests. So when you're doing an out of park quest, it's going to cause a lot of anxiety because you don't know how those people are going to react. So I would recommend, uh, even if you're uncomfortable with going to people and asking for help, uh, just even asking how their park reacts to things is going to prove beneficial in the end. And I promise the people that I've listed off are not at all scary. I've I've talked with them. I have, like I said, I have my own anxiety issues, and they're some of the most comfortable people I can talk with because they're so full of stories and ideas. They kind of make it relatable to the utmost degree. Um, and that brings me to my next point. The During the quest phase. This is when it's going to become tough for people, and I completely understand that y- it's going to prove to be one of your worst anxiety things. And I don't mean that to scare you. I'm trying to say that to prepare. Um, but there are ways around anxiety, especially if you have social anxiety or anxiety caused by audio or what's the word? Audio visual issues? I can't remember the term for it, unfortunately. Um, so there's a couple ways you can bypass it. The first one, your your allies. When you have all these quest mastering allies, they know how to talk to people for the most part. Not everybody's going to be able to talk to everybody. Um, but you can have them narrate for you. If you're uncomfortable talking to larger groups to initiate your quest, talk with this ally and say, "Hey, I'm not good with speaking with groups. Can you help me uh kind of narrate and be the voice of the quest?" And more often than not, the quest master will say yes. After I did my first quest, I was kicking myself. I felt like I poorly ran that, and I'm gonna talk about uh, that kind of stuff afterwards. Um, but I talked with Tyler, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna run another quest. Can I have your help with this?" "Oh, sure. Do you want me to narrate for you?" Well, my mind kind of stopped functioning at that point because I was like, "That's a thing people can do? What?" And it's not often talked about because unfortunately, from what I've seen when it comes to the higher smiths, you kinda need to run the quest on your own. I'm not entirely sure if that's a bypassable thing. I kind of wish it to be, especially to make the game more accessible. Um, but having somebody else run your quest or narrate your quest takes a lot of pressure off of you to uh, do things. And if you have somebody else narrating, you can run around and be the semantics person, making sure everything is good, all the all the mechanics are in order. Um, and the other people you can ask during the quest are the players themselves. The Nine Blades, at least 99% of us, are stupidly nice people. We are all, to a degree, uh very honest with each other, very open and caring. Um, so if you have issues, just stand aside with your players and say, "Hey, I'm running this quest. I'm quite nervous about it. Can you guys go a little bit easier on me?" And for the most part, people are going to be like, "Yeah, sure. We'll make sure that we kind of follow along the railroad a little bit because it's in order for things to go a little bit easier. Some things do need to be a bit railroaded. Um, but don't expect everybody to. There will be players who'll be like, "No, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to break this quest from Kingdom Come." In which case, it's that's going to require improv and thinking on the spot. And I know some people aren't good at that, which is another reason why the ally comes in hand and say, "Hey, this person's going to break things. Can you help me stop them?" That was one of the things I had with one of my quests. I had a book, and that book was important to the quest line. And a player from a different park stole the book. And I was like, "Oh God, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to write things, but the rest of this quest kind of hinges on this book." Uh, so I talked with another player, and that player stole the book from that person. So the book was still in Linagon and still uh good. I'm not going to name names of who the players were just for safety's sake, but I'm just using an example. Um, and if you want the players to be happier with you overall, take breaks. If parks usually go on for 2 to 3 hours depending on the day, if people are tired, if the sun's beating down on them, if it's late at night, it's it's gonna cause issues if you're constantly going and shoving story down their throat, and it's gonna wear you out like no tomorrow. It's gonna cause you anxiety, saying, "Hey, I need to keep these players interested and whatnot." Take breaks. Let them sit down. Let them hydrate. Let them talk about uh, how they're gonna do in the story, and if they're gonna do so, stand around them, and say, "Hey, I'm just gonna listen in on how you guys talk," and from there you can think about how you're going to proceed with the story. If they're going to deviate from the path you plan, then stand there and think, "Oh, they're going to try to kill this important NPC. Well, what can this important NPC do? Oh, suddenly they're part zombie. Okay, now they've come back from the dead and they're gonna talk to you about uh sales pitches. I don't know. Um, But if you give the players the break, they're gonna be in a happier mood overall, 'cause they're not exhausted from all this RP, and RP, from a player's perspective, can be exhausting in large quantities. I've known people who have had to take steps aside when RP gets too intense because it's a lot of RP is dark. Nobody wants to be around that dark, dismal kind of situation for too long. I mean, little bits are okay, and quests can be dark and dismal, but they need to kind of stand back and reflect on what's going on. Otherwise, they're going to become overwhelmed as well. And I don't mean to scare you, but quest mastering can be hard, especially when if something goes wrong in the quest, the players are going to blame you and not themselves, and that's quite often the situation. Don't I don't want to say don't listen to them. Take some of what they say with a introspective, um, but don't, like, take it to heart. That if things they've caused are are if are the sorry. If the issues they've caused are stem from what their own actions are, that's on them. And when it comes that's when it comes to phase 3 is knowing after the quest what to do. So self-reflection is very important after a quest, especially for a quest master. It's how we come, we grow, and we learn. And it's very, very important to know uh self-destruction versus critical introspection. And I'm gonna kind of divulge the two a bit. So I'm going to be outright with you guys. I am terrible for self-destruction, especially when it comes to quest mastering. I have too critical of mind, and I think, oh god, everything went wrong, or everything that could go wrong went wrong, and that's just anxiety. I promise you, that's just anxiety. So self-destruction is actually let's start with critical introspection. Critical introspection is basically critical thought and how people kind of thought during your quest and understood your quest. Um, and it's good to know what people thought during the quest. It kind of helps you learn more about the park you're working for. If people thought more during puzzles, if people had more fun during the fighting part, it's important to know uh, what to do, and you kind of have to have a slightly harsher mind about yourself when it comes to that, and which is totally fine. Having harsh mind about yourself is is okay. You have to know when to step back and say, I know where I messed up, and I know what issues were caused by myself. And that's thinking critically about the entire quest mastering side of things. You have to think about how you did as like a mechanics person. If you didn't have a narrator, how did you narrate? If you if the something went wrong with the quest, did the players cause it? How did they cause it? And think could things be changed in the future? Um, and to help with critical introspection, actually, I'll get to that later. Self-destruction, on the other hand, is when it becomes dangerous. Oh, I fucked up everything. And I know anxiety is the mind's worst nightmare when it comes to that kind of thing. Self-destruction is you think everything stems on yourself. We're human. It is to err is human. To earth is slug. But it's okay to fuck up. Fucking up makes you know that things can be improved on, and you will improve. The more you quest master, the better your quests will be. I didn't achieve my best quest yet until 6 quests in, and I know I still have a lot higher to go. I haven't even done a kingdom quest. God knows it scares me, and I'm still trying to plan for it. But it's there's only one way you can go, and that's up. And it's as I tell everybody, quests are cumulative. You build on on yourself, and you build off of other people's quests. You take what they did right, and you add it to your own. Um, but if you're not willing to improve, that's part of self-destruction. If you're thinking, "Oh, I passed this 100%. Everybody enjoyed it. Nobody hated it." It's it'll be dangerous to yourself because you will not improve. It's important to have that kind of look back and say, "Hey, I I did mess up one or two things. One or two things could be better. Uh, I'll take this quest, save it aside, and I'll look at it later. And another important thing, both in a critical introspective as well as a morale boost kind of thing, uh, talk with other people. Every so often, if I think a quest is okay at best, I'll toss out a survey to Linagon and say, "Hey, I did this quest. How do you feel about it?" And they'll more often than not they'll give you honest advice and say, "Hey, I liked this, but this could be better." Learn that you did this well, and if you know you did that well, you can build off strengths. Don't do the exact same quest over. That's People will get bored really quickly. And if you know where you messed up, you can improve on that. Um, but it also helps as a morale boost because, and speaking from experience, there are people too nice for their own good. I've I've had a few quests where I know things kind of did poorly, but people went, "Oh, it was good." Uh, s- uh, Fake smile kind of thing. And of course, that's I know that then they're trying to be nice. But if take that as kind of a little bit of a with a grain of salt and take my advice not so strongly, I guess. It can help as a morale boost sometimes, especially if you're trying to curb an anxiety attack. Sure, it may be slightly faked, but it can help jumpstart uh, a recovery. And like I said, it's I'm no psychologist. I don't speak for everybody. This is just from my experience. Thanks for job. Yeah. Um, I speak from experience of how things have helped me, and I know they're not going to help for everybody. Um, but take everything you've learned and apply it to future quests. I never want to stop seeing people make quests. If you have a quest idea, frickin' do it. Just do it. I know I sound like Shia LaBeouf right there, but really, it's. I know anxiety is a major cause of people not quest mastering, and like I said, I totally understand myself. But this is the reason why I'm telling you guys this stuff. It's keep making quests. The more you make quests, the less anxiety you'll have about the entire thing. Generally. I know people will still have anxiety attacks and whatnot. I do too. I've 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 run I don't know how many quests. I was gonna give a number, but I don't know if that would be a true number. Um, but I promise you, I still get anxiety. I know people like Varen probably still get anxiety about things. Tyler still gets anxiety about things. Finola gets anxiety about things. It's just a natural way of life with how some things go. And I don't want it to stop you guys. I don't want you guys to say I'm fearful of quests. I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, sure, if you feel like it's unhealthy for you, stop it. Don't make any more quests. At least for the time being. But it's it's a very fulfilling thing overall. As much as anxiety as it induces, as much as it may mess with your mental health initially, there's more good things that come out of it than bad. People have fun. People have a good time. They'll have a story to tell. I know about the first quest I did where I know I kind of messed up a couple things. I still look back on it and say, "Hey, at least I know where my start went, and at least I know where I am from here, and I know I've grown as a person." quest mastering overall can kind of help some anxiety issues. I'm not gonna say all of them. And I apologize if I sound like I'm ranting here. It's just it's important to me to hear people wanting to make quests. I never want to see the art of quest mastering stop. Sorry, I apologize for this. But anxiety shouldn't stop you. And that's the entire point of this class. It's I want to help others be able to write their quests. To I want people to write stories. And I know that those with anxiety here want to write to be able to have people tell stories. And I promise it will happen. Rely on others. Plan ahead of time. Remember remember before, during, and after quests. How you think you should go about things. You could take everything I've said today and know from what Gil or Paul has talked about today, I don't think is gonna help me. But even if you look at quest mastering of the three phases, before, during, and after, use that think about that and kind of fill in the blanks on your own. And that's the same with other mental healths as well. Depression, like think about before, what could you do to stop depression or stifle depression before it stops you from writing a quest? It's there's it's like a coloring book. What I've given you is kind of like my own poorly filled in picture. You could take that same picture and fill it in with your own colors. And I guess I just want you guys to leave here today wanting to write quests, feeling like you're not stifled at all. I want you to be out there learning how to make quests. I want you to be out there enjoying yourself. Because Amtgard is fun. The people of the Nine Blades are nice. And I promise you things will get better. Yeah, Rajavi, as much as people kick and scream about it, we are all nice people. Though I do want to give the time now, if anybody has any questions about quest mastering at all, or like if they think X idea is good for mental health, feel free to pipe up. And if you don't want to pipe up now, my Discord DMs are always open. You can find me on Facebook as Paul Peach. It I'm always open to talk shop regarding quest mastering and helping other people. Unfortunately, if you're asking me to come to your park and help you narrate a quest, I can do so online. I don't have the means right now to help you out, but I can help direct you to people. So if anybody has any questions now, feel free to ask. Uh, I'm also gonna. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Um, so I know that a lot of us do have anxiety, but you've talked a lot about overcoming that or subduing that. But what about when everything goes right? That feeling that you get when your quest is over.
There's sort of a relief to it. I'm just gonna preface it, even if things don't go right. Uh, having the quest over brings a lot of relief, at least instantaneously. But when things do go right, and you see the smiles on people's faces, you know that this entire endeavor is worth it. That's the reason people quest master, is to see people having fun and to hear these stories. And when things go right, it's still good to ask people how they thought about it. If they have the dumb stupid grin on their faces, they'll say, "Oh, I had such a blast. I'll remember this day for Kingdom Come." In Linagond, I still have people talking about one of the quests I've ran before, which was a stealth quest. And it's knowing that I've had that impact on people, to have that memory stored away in their minds, it gives me hope that I can still keep going like that. And using that against your anxiety helps a lot as well. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much. And I will probably be taking you up on it because I do want to write some small quests.
Of
And we're
course.
back in the field.
I'm also going to leave the floor open for any quest masters that have ran quests here. Quest. Um, Feel free to talk now verbally. Uh, if you've overcome anxiety, kind of give others hope and kind of help them realize that quest mastering is a wonderful thing. I know Bonnie probably has some with her acorns, or Morden has some with some of the quests he's done in Lichwood. I'm not trying to throw people out to talk about it, I'm just using it as an example. If not, no worries.
What? How is it that I've been in Lichwood for 2 years, Morden, and there's never been any quests?
Because I pretty much finished the one quest line that we were on, and then COVID happened, and before that, I was busy, and no one else wanted to do it. So Kendall also ran a quest line way back in the day too. It was a pretty good one actually.
Oh, I'm just messing with you. No, Kendall actually had talked about running another quest line. He just wanted to make sure you were done with yours first, and then, COVID.
Mine just kind of ended, right? And it was never. I just got really busy all of a sudden, and I never got back to it. So it's kind of finished. It's kind of not finished, but it was at a place where we could finish it. It wasn't the finish I wanted, but oh well.
Oh, that's one thing I do want to bring up, and thank you for reminding me, Morden. Um, there's no harm in jumping ship on a quest. It may be kind of like a grinding to a halt kind of thing, but your health is more important in the long run. You can't you'll be broken as a person if you try to force yourself way too hard. And as Faye Wellen said, if if you get a co-QM, or a side helper, or a second in command, however you want to word it, um, it helps that if you do need to step off, they can keep going. And of course, if the fame and glory will still fall on both of you, because you made this quest. It's it's your own flesh and blood, and it's your own flesh and blood, and it's mental property and whatnot. And it's, if you, well, from what you wrote, if you have a co-QM, sometimes both people will be writing it. Any other questions? Any other stories?
The Foobard is asking why you're calling him out.
Because I love you, Foobard. Now I'm going to do a little bit something unorthodox here. Questions will still be open, but if you have a story about a quest you've participated in, talk about it. It'll help give other quest masters the kind of thought like, "Oh, I want to do something cool like this."
I have a
I know
story.
bypass their anxieties and give people memories like this.
Can you hear me? Oh, yes. So I have a story. It's ages old, and it's from my previous LARP, which was running Amtgard V6-ish style rules. One of my friends had made a quest, and we were running through it. And one of the things that could be found was a treasure chest, and he had crafted some treasure chests, and he'd put some baubles in there, and he'd put some potion bottles in there. And of course, they were sealed, so you wouldn't drink them because there was like glitter and paint and stuff in them to make them look cool and swirly. But I remember one of the questers having gotten that and going, "What kind of potion is it?" The questmaster just grinned and shrugged and was like, "It's not labeled." And I remember the player looking at it, looking around the rest of the party and going, "I've always wanted to do this." And then he mimed slamming it back and then looking up at his questmaster going, "What happens?" And the questmaster pulled out a piece of paper and dice and went, "Here you go," and let him roll some dice into the chest. And it was like a potion of like bark skin or something, and gave him some natural armor. And the guy was like, "Oh, I'm a tree. That's so cool." And then he ran off super happy with his, 1 point buff of natural armor everywhere. But just that moment of, "Oh, I've always wanted to do this," slam it back. What happens? And it not being in this tabletop setting where it's like, "Oh, you found 3 potions of this, potions of that." No, he literally found a potion, and it was not labeled. And he had to drink it to find out what it was. Drink it.
Well, thank you for that story. Is there anybody else who would like to share a story? Be it small or big, just something that stuck with you. I see several people are typing, so I'm just going to wait for them. All right, Foobard has a story. Oh, Faywellen has a story. Here we go. So I'm just going to read it out for Faywellen. I created a Dark Lord scenario with the intention of running it throughout my entire Regent reign. Quergor took my minor Cliff's Notes direction and created a big baddie and ran with it. He helped me push through the anxiety of creating a story, because there were some very not nice people who just ripped me apart after the first game of the scenario, telling me I sucked, the game sucked, etc. Gregor kept my storyline going and encouraged me to not just give up, or to just not just give up because some players can't help but tear down the game creators down when they don't win. And thank you for the story for all. But it's as I said before, that there are people who will be dicks. Just for as best as you can, try not to listen to them if it's their own damn fault. Sorry if you hear noise in the background. My cat found a paper bag. So while we're waiting on Fubart, anybody else have any fun quest stories that they've been part of, or times being a quest master that they've overcome anxiety with?
I don't have any of what exactly you're looking for, but I mean, most of my Quest RP has been on Discord. There have been a variety of people who have done one shots or extended story arcs, and I can say honestly that I have enjoyed all of them. And I think that we are really fortunate here in the Nine Blades to have so many quest masters, because it gives a wide variety of playstyles for those of us who are participating. I would like to thank all of them.
Yes, that's one thing as players that I ask you to do. Thank your quest masters. It's like Rajavia did, and thank you, Rajavia. But it helps for the quest masters who do have anxiety. They feel appreciated in the end, even if it's small. And I can tell you more often than not, sometimes a thank you goes down better than any other advice that people can give about the quest.
I have a couple of stories.
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, I have general anxiety disorder. I've been diagnosed with it. I also have autism. So for me to take a leadership role is very anxiety filling for me. Even my very first quest that I did was my very first major event, and that was a spring mid-range, quest line that I did. It was like in four or five different parts, so 4 or 5 different puzzles they had to solve in order to get to the end. And actually, it turned out a lot better than I expected. But I was just so nervous the whole time. And I had a great team of NPCs who really had my back with that one. And then in the second one another one I did, I was not as nervous with that one because I was prepped. I learned from past experiences, and although it didn't go quite as I anticipated, it still had a good ending, sort of. It was a 3-tier boat battle, which I laid out on the ground with rope. And they were supposed to save the captors, the slave captives from the ship, and to defeat all these bad guys. But unfortunately, they ran out of lives. They all shattered. And I said, "Well, you didn't save them." And the NPC said, "Well, what if we sacrificed ourselves to the ship? Would they do a trade in return?" And that just blew my mind. I hadn't considered that idea. I thought about it for a moment, and then I remembered something I'd learned at a um, previous event class about quest writing, and I said, "Okay, you can give yourselves to the ship in exchange for these prisoners, but you're shattered for a month." And they agreed, and so that's what happened. And so the four NPCs who were playing, or the four PCs who were playing, ended up their characters shattered for a month. I know 3 of them went on to create new characters and to experiment with new things. So that was a fantastic turnout for that one. And then recently, I finally got to participate in an online quest. I can't normally do that because it's all verbal, and I'm nonverbal learning disability, so it's really hard for me to do verbal quests. But this one was all text, and so I could follow along, and because I did, I figured out the puzzle, and I led my team to victory. That's the story.
Well, it's good to hear those stories. Thank you. I'm glad, especially with the boat one, that the players were good to you.
No, they were fantastic. Actually, I think that was a lot of fun. That was a one-shot quest. Um, it was a lot of fun because we had a Lich captain, and the person who played the Lich captain really wanted to keep the character afterwards, and I said, "Go right ahead." So he kept him. Captain Bones, I think. Bart Skillings played it, and he loved the character, so I'm like, sure. And I told him, play it off as much as you want. I don't mind. We had a couple of zombies, and we had a uh, gelatinous goo monster in the basement, and we had a couple of NPCs play non-combat, which I think included Krista at the time, and a couple of kids that we had, young kids, too young to play, but they were perfect for, you know, they're perfect for non-combat NPCs as part of the thing. So, and in the end, I think it was a fairly interesting game, fairly interesting quest.
Well, that's good to hear that everybody had fun. As a quick note before I end the class, because I don't want to overrun the time for the next person. I don't know who's next. But I hope you guys learned something today about overcoming stuff for quest mastering and the glories of quest mastering. But this isn't just for quest mastering. Sometimes you can use it for other things like cratting or uh like now classes, because I can tell you right now my heart rate is going through the frickin' roof. Um but Smiths in general is a wonderful thing, and I greatly appreciate that you guys are here to learn. I'm sorry to hear that, Bonnie. Um, I'm glad you guys are here to learn. It's always fulfilling to see that you guys are wanting to do such things, even if you're just sitting here as a player and never as a quest master. And for that, I take my leave and hope to see quests from you guys in the future.